You ever wake up thinking the biggest problem you'll face that day is whether to use cedar or composite on your new terrace, and then wind up fighting a war with a woman who acts like she's the sheriff, mayor, and god of the Colorado foothills all rolled into one? Because that's how my story started, and man, if you told me then what I was about to go through, helicopters, lawsuits, sabotage, police cruisers at sunrise, I'd have told you were nuts. But I guess that's the thing about a dream home. Nobody tells you the real battle starts the second someone else decides your dream is an eyesore. The morning it all kicked off, the sky was so clear you could see every ridge for miles, frost biting at the grass, breath hanging in the air. I rolled my pickup just past the creek, 12 acres of freedom stretching in every direction. The bed was loaded up with insulation rolls, panels, and some fancy Scandinavian ironwork I'd picked up for the terrace. Because if you're going to build your dream, you might as well do it right. House was so close to Dunstone, shell finished, solar humming, septic approved. I had the finish line in sight, and for the first time in years, I actually let myself believe I was home free. And then there she was, striding up the gravel, blonde bob, clipboard with the HOA logo flashing like a badge. Didn't knock, didn't smile, just launched in, "Excuse me, do you have a permit to be here?" That's the opening line. On my own land. If you've ever dealt with one of these types, you know exactly the energy I'm talking about, like you're a trespasser in your own story. She started rattling off about private access, HOA zones, roads being restricted. Her voice just flat enough to say, "You're about to have a bad day." I tried to keep it friendly. Explained I turned off County Road 26, crossed my own easement, didn't drive through hollow pines, didn't use her fancy pavement. She wasn't impressed, kept poking that clipboard, talking about infrastructure, asking if I was a member. When I said no, she looked at me like I just admitted to poisoning the water supply. "Our roads are for residents only," she said. "And you've been running trucks up and down for months." I just stared. My driveway doesn't even enter their development, but logic had already left the building. So I skipped, told her I bought this land long before hollow pines ever existed, and unless she was bringing cookies, she could head back to her castle. She didn't flinch, pulled a paper off her clipboard, waved it around like an eviction notice. "You'll be hearing from our board. This development has rules, and you're not above them." I just watched her SUV disappear down the hill, feeling that cold tingle in my gut you get right before a thunderstorm rolls in. Later that night, packing up after a long day, I saw a fresh chain lock snap across my gate. New hardware, my own latch replaced with a bolt and padlock I'd never seen. Next to it, a sheet of laminated paper, HOA logo front and center, bold red letters screaming, "Suspension of access, property subject to review. By order of Hollow Pines." My hands actually shook for a second, more from anger than cold. I didn't yell, didn't lose it. Just walked back to my truck, grabbed the angle grinder, and 20 seconds later that lock was dust. I took pictures of everything: chain, sign, tire tracks, filed the threat neatly in my glove box. If they wanted a fight, fine. But they'd get it on my turf, not theirs. Next morning, the sun barely rose. There's a knock not on my door, but on my truck window. 2 deputies, uniforms pressed, Karen herself standing behind them in tennis whites and a fleece, arms folded, smirking like she'd already won. The older deputy asked if I was Aaron Holmes, voice flat but not unfriendly. I offered them cold eggs, trying to keep it light, but they were all business. Said they got a call about unfair occupation, break-in, squatting. I looked over at Karen, waved. She didn't even blink. So I opened my truck, pulled out my apocalypse folder, every deed, permit, map, notarized and color-coded. Because in Colorado you learn to document everything. The older deputy went through the paperwork, the younger one checked out the house, and after a few tense minutes they handed everything back. "Seems to be in order," he said, and asked if I had proof of the lock and sign. I scrolled through the photos, showed every angle, logo clear as day. Karen stepped up, voice dripping concern. "Officers, this man is disrupting our community, using our roads. I have the HOA resolution." The deputy cut her off. "Ma'am, this is a county road. Unless you have documentation filed with the county, there's no violation." Karen's voice climbs an octave, raving about rogue elements and community infrastructure. When she poked her finger in my face, shoving past the deputy, he didn't hesitate, cuffed her right there. "You are under arrest for assaulting a peace officer." Karen shrieked all the way back to the cruiser. I just leaned on my truck and watched, thinking, well, that escalated quickly. If you think getting the HOA president arrested buys you peace, you've never met someone like Karen. She was out on bail in 24 hours, and what came next made the chain lock look like a warm-up. Suddenly, there's a black steel gate across the road, keypad entry, private roadway signs, everything screaming trespassers will be prosecuted. The kicker? That road is county-maintained. Always has been. But she'd filed to reclassify it, and the county, slow as molasses, slapped a temporary closure on it while they sorted things out. My deliveries dried up. No gravel, no drywall. I couldn't get a plumber unless he hiked a mile through the brush. If Karen thought this would break me, she hadn't seen my resume. I called a buddy who ran a helicopter logistics company 48 hours later. A cargo chopper dropped 2 tons of lumber and insulation onto my meadow, filmed the whole thing, posted it under, "When the HOA blocks you, take the high ground." The video blew up online. Sponsors started calling. Karen wanted to isolate me, but she'd made me a legend. But this isn't just a story about stubbornness, it's about chess, not checkers. I started looking for Karen's weak spot. That residents-only farmers market she runs every weekend? Turns out it was set up on federal land. Roosevelt National Forest. No permits, no right to operate. I pulled every GIS overlay, every old map, sent it to the Forest Service and State Land Office. Within a week, the road closure was on hold, the feds circling hollow pines like vultures. Karen responded by going full Psychomy, mailbox bashed in, drones hovering outside my windows, her nephew caught red-handed trying to film inside my house. My lawyer Dana was a beast, filed injunctions, harassment claims, documented every crazy move. By now, Karen's HOA war has gone from laughable to criminal. We went to court. Karen showed up with 2 board members and a lawyer who looked like he'd lost a bet. Dana was surgical, laid out every document, video, map, testimony, even a clip of the HOA security guy trying to yank up my survey marker with a crowbar. Judge wasn't buying any of Karen's blusher. Ordered the gate gone, road open, all barriers removed. Any more trouble and it'd be contempt of court. Karen lost it. Right there on the roadside, tried to cut down my private property not subject to HOA sign with an angle grinder. Deputies cuffed her again, this time with half the HOA watching. That moment, her howling, sparks flying. The guys she ordered around filming it on their phones. I wish I could bottle the satisfaction. But Karen wasn't done. She filed a civil suit, claimed I damaged their infrastructure, caused emotional distress, even cited my helicopter deliveries as hazardous airspace activity. Dana just rolled her eyes. We filed a counterclaim for everything: illegal locks, fake notices, drone harassment, vandalism, even lost income from project delays. And then, goldmine. A FOIA request proved Hollow Pines had accepted state funds for the road under the condition it stayed public. Karen had committed fraud, actual, documentable fraud. Twist Tamia, retired board member named Keith, called me. Said he couldn't watch Karen destroy the neighborhood anymore. Handed me a thumb drive with years of emails, recordings, proof of fake votes, rerouted budget funds. Dana called it a legal buffet. The next court date, the judge opened with a warning about criminal conduct. Then the county prosecutor, who'd been sitting quietly in the back, stood up and called for a state investigation into fraud, obstruction, falsification of documents. Karen's lawyer went pale. The case exploded. Karen's accounts frozen. The HOA put under review, criminal charges filed, the whole 9 yards. The verdict? I won. The road declared public, the gates down, the HOA forced to pay my delivery and legal costs. Karen arrested again, this time for real fraud, embezzlement, assault, evidence tampering. The house got finished, solar humming, pool sparkling, stone deck shining. The wind off the foothills didn't carry the threat of war anymore, just a promise that I'd made my stand and win. I put up 2 hand-carved stone markers. First one, plain, private property, not part of HOA. Owner is armed and legally prepared. Second one, poetic. Here they tried to take my freedom. Here it was buried instead. Invited friends and neighbors for a barbecue. Keith, Dana, even Doris from down the way, who apologized for not standing up sooner. There were no speeches, no drama, just laughter echoing off the ridge and kids running barefoot on new grass. Dana raised a glass and said, "You built a fortress." I said, "Yeah, but now it's just a home." And I stood out there that night, under the stars, listening to the pine trees and some stubborn coyote, and I realized I wasn't watching for the next move anymore. I'd made mine and it stuck. So let me ask you, would you have fought like I did? Or walked away and let someone like Karen run you off your own land? When does defending your rights become obsession, and when does standing your ground become the only way forward? Drop your thoughts below, share your own battle stories. Tell me who was right, who was wrong, and what you'd have done differently. Because if there's one thing I learned out here on this ridge, it's that the only lines that really matter are the ones you're willing to defend, no matter who tries to erase them.